Hey everyone, it's been a little bit since I've done a horror games related video. I'm going to do Xbox today, and there are a lot of good horror games that came out on the Xbox, so no more time wasting. Let's get started. Up first is Fatal Frame and Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. These originally came out on the PS2, and the Xbox versions, they both are enhanced editions because they came out after the PS2 ones, adding new ghosts, new areas, new costumes, and the part 2 is actually called Director's Cut. Now, the PS2 versions are a little bit more valued, I guess. They always seem to have a little bit higher price, like on eBay and stuff, but it's just one of those things where I think people had known about them more on the PS2 and sought them out playing the PS2. There was more PS2s out there, even though to me the Xbox versions are obviously the ones to have. They have more content and the better graphics quality on them also. Part 3 is on the PS2, and they didn't do like a director's cut special version on the Xbox, but if you've never played any of the Fatal Frame games, they're some of the scariest freaking games of all time. You basically, your weapon is a camera, and you're fighting against ghosts, and it's very nerve-wracking and intense. Part 4 never made it to America or Europe, and they just did a remake of Part 2, which is on the Wii in Japan and Europe, but no announcement of it coming out here, so definitely check out the Fatal Frame games. Up next is Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. This game came out in 2005, I believe, and there seemed to be a huge resurgence in like the popularity of Cthulhu in the early and mid 2000s. Basically, H.P. Lovecraft's creation sort of blew up in games, board games, card games. It's still going strong today. I mean, I still see it referenced in a lot of things. But this was a really, really good game. I liked it a lot. And the lighting's sort of a little funky, so it's glarish. But you have to deal with your character also going insane, on top of it being like a first-person survival horror shooter game. But so that was a really cool aspect to it. There's a few other games that kind of tie, in the insanity part to what your character's experiencing and making it harder for you to basically play it. I really like this. You can pick it up for, I want to say last time I checked was around the $20 mark or so for a complete copy. So yeah, definitely if you're a fan of more unique horror in the sense of not zombies, ghosts, if you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft at all, this is definitely a game to check out. These next two are from my favorite horror series of all time, Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 4 The Room. Silent Hill 2, also on the PS2. When they put out the Xbox version, it had a bunch of extras added to it, extra playable character, area, and enhanced graphics. But then they eventually released that on PS2 also as like the greatest hits version on there. Silent Hill 4 The Room, probably my least favorite Silent Hill, but still doesn't mean I don't like it. This originally wasn't going to be a Silent Hill game, and they sort of tacked on Silent Hill aspects to it later on. It's almost more of like a ghost adventure. Most of the enemies in the game are ghosts. Some are still pretty creepy, but the game overall has a completely different feel to it. There's no flashlight or foggy areas to explore. It took me a while to beat it because I was disappointed at first, and then I kind of went back to it quite a while later, and I finally beat it. And the ending does get pretty decent, so not my favorite, but still a good horror game to play. Up next, we have Doom 3. This is the Collector's Edition, which comes with Ultimate Doom and Doom 2, along with a few other things, and then the Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil expansion, which also came with Ultimate Doom, Doom 2, and master levels for Doom 2. Very good first-person horror shooter. I remember when I first played it, it did make me jump quite a few times, and that's pretty rare for me to actually, be startled in a first-person shooter game. Good graphics. They're actually putting out a HD version called the BFG edition on the 360 and PS3, which is going to include the expansion pack, Doom 1 and 2, they'll be in HD, and then Doom 3, there was basically thing that people didn't like, where you had to swap out your flashlight and then swap it to your gun to use. You couldn't use them both at the same time. In the BFG edition, you will be able to have them both out at the same time. I'm not sure if I'm going to hang on to these two editions or if I will sell them to a friend of mine. When the BFG edition comes out, I guess I'll have to see, exactly, how it looks in its final form. But these are not very expensive. I mean, you can get, obviously, they're not the collector's edition of this. You can get these for just a few bucks. But really good first-person horror shooter. For an overlooked zombie game, we have Land of the Dead, Road to Fiddler's Green. If you ever heard of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Land of the Dead, they're all George A. Romero films, and this is based off of the Land of the Dead film. It's a first-person shooter. The locations aren't very unique. City, sewer, hospitals, that kind of stuff. But it did have multiplayer. It had online and offline system link multiplayer for up to 8 people. So before Left 4 Dead and the zombie modes on Call of Duty, you could do, play a zombie multiplayer game with your friends. Not a bad game. I definitely enjoyed it, and like I said, it got looked over, didn't sell very well, and I definitely recommend picking that up, especially if you're a fan of the movies of, like I mentioned, George A. Romero ones. Give it a try. These last 4 I'm going to go through pretty quick. They're definitely not the greatest horror games of all time, but they're only like a few bucks to get now, and they're worth checking out if you just want to kind of experience a little bit of everything on Xbox in the horror genre. First is The Suffering. Now there's a sequel called The Suffering Ties That Bind. The game takes place, you're trying to escape a prison that's on an island, and there's all these mutant nasty creatures trying to kill you. The creatures are designed by a Stan Winston studio who did like special effects for movies, so the creatures are kind of cool looking, really unique, like needles sticking out of their eyes and stuff like that. So Suffering is alright. It's probably the best out of these 4 that I'm going to show, but not fantastic, just a warning. Next is Curse, the Eye of Isis. Basically, there's a Egyptian artifact that was stolen from a museum, and a curse has now been let out, and is killing everybody and causing mayhem and havoc. I remember I played maybe about 30 minutes of the game, and it was just sort of boring. There wasn't a lot going on to really kind of draw me in the first half hour. I'm going to go back and play it at some point, but it has a cool cover to it. It looks spooky. Next is a game I just got really recently, RLH, Run Like Hell. I've almost bought it many times. It's on PS2 and Xbox, but I picked up the Xbox One because I've been looking for the free soundtrack that had come with it, and I couldn't find any freaking copies that had it, and finally for I think $5 I saw a copy, and it has the soundtrack with it. So I'm just a completist like that. If it came with it, I want it. So Run Like Hell is a alien-based horror game. Basically, aliens have invaded your station, and they've killed all the crew, and you don't want to die. It even says right on the back, your mission, not to join them. It's pretty cheesy and generic on almost every level. Even the little quotes and stuff on it are about as generic and cheesy you can get. Fight an alien takeover as an exiled military hero in an intense sci-fi action horror adventure. That's like the main description for the game, which could describe quite a few games. And the last being Cold Fear. This actually wasn't too bad. I would not consider it as bad as the last few. It takes place on a Russian whaling vessel. You heard a distress beacon, you go to this ship to try to help them, and it's in the middle of this bad storm, and you basically find these nasty creatures all over the ship, and everyone's dead. Now, I liked some of the aspects of the boat movement while you're on it, the tilting and weaving, and some parts where you can actually almost slide off into the water. And there was some scary parts. There was some, decent boo jump out scares to it. So Cold Fear is not that god awful. That's it, guys. There's more games that I guess you could really stretch and throw into the horror genre, but these ones were the ones that really fit it. And I don't want to make a half-hour-long video of just extra little tidbits. So that's it, guys. Don't know when the next episode will be, but always keep checking back for more horror video games on certain systems. So thank you for watching. Peace, subscribe, do all that stuff. Talk to you later.